We're live, baby. All right, I'm more than halfway to being a QuickBooks ProAdvisor. So today I'm going to work on doing the other half, and I just have to double check that everything is working the way it should. Okay, looks good. Looking good. I'm going to update the title. All right. So now I more than halfway to QuickBooks ProAdvisor status. All right. So that should be working. I think I'm like mildly out of focus. Go back just a smidge. Okay, I think that's better. And you guys can't see it, but there's a kitty cat in the window. Wait, not the window, but behind me. Oh, I'm leaking. I'm always leaking things, man. Oh, there's a little paw. A little paw just showed up. Okay, I need this window to just be a window on its own. So that I know the stream has not crapped out. And then I will grab OBS. Okay, things are working, things are happening. And now, let me see. All right, we're good. Stream's live, everything's chill. Oh, actually, one more thing. I need to make sure I got the chat open. Do that. Oi, oi, oi. Oi, 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 oi. Oi, oi, oi. This is called being prepared. It's called coming prepared. Okay. Now I'm ready. There we go. All right. So I'm going to be continuing with the ProAdvisor training on the QuickBooks site. As you can see, I am 52% of the way there, 52% done, which is not bad. And so what did I start? I did the accountant dashboard, setting up team members, clients, key company settings, taxes, chart of accounts, importing, exporting data. So that was going in like the settings menu and like advanced settings, and then transaction activities. So this was the big one that I did yesterday. It took me like 3 hours. This says 6.5 hours, but I think I've already put like 5 in just because I'm like really taking my time and trying to actually learn it. But yeah, I guess now kind of looks like more techie stuff, connecting bank feeds, creating rules and that kind of thing. And then reporting, so getting reports, and then period end activities. So I'm going to try to get through definitely this today, maybe reporting, and then maybe this as well. But definitely this one. So let's just get started because I don't want to be here all day. And this is the sample company, at least it should be. If I don't dox myself for like the millionth time. Yeah, so this is the sample company that I've been kind of messing around with. I was like messing around with it yesterday too. Expense transactions. And looks good. Sort top down. So yesterday, what did we do? I went through mostly like suppliers and like paying bills and like printing checks and doing like credit card credits and supplier credits, which I think, yeah, you can create bills here for people. You can check your unpaid bills here, so you can make a payment. And I believe all of the, oh no, it's just a specific bill reference, and then you can like print the check later, or you can preview the check printing, I think. Oh, maybe it just like sent it. Okay, yeah, so it does just like send the check to being printed. Anyway, it's really interesting because I didn't really realize like, oh boy, oh my god, I know like the real estate company I used to work at, like they would often be printing checks for people, but I didn't really realize like how, I guess, straightforward it is using QuickBooks to like print checks and stuff like that. So that was kind of fun to learn about. Anyway, so yeah, some other things I have to do today. I need to go for a run because I am doing a half marathon. My job, I'm going to be working 6 days a week, March to April for the tax season, and my marathon is on May 2nd or 3rd, and like tax season is done on April 30th. So I will have to know life. I will literally have no life doing taxes and running. I don't know if I'm going to do it before work in the morning. That might be a good idea. Like maybe I like drive to the workplace because it's like an hour from here driving, and I still have to like source a car. But it's like an hour from here driving to the workplace, and then with traffic it could be like almost 2 hours some days. So I think maybe I'll do that. Like maybe I'll drive, get there like an hour early, and then do like a training and then get into work. It depends on the schedule because it sounds like some days I'll be there from like 11 to 8:30, and some days I'll be there like 9 to 5:30 or something like that. Or 12 to 8:30, I guess would be, no wait, that doesn't make sense. I think it is 11 to 8:30. It is till 6:30. I don't know how much. 9 to 5 is 8 hours, but I have an hour unpaid lunch, and I'm going to be working for 8.5 hours, which means my days are going to be like 9 to 6:30. I'm not looking forward to that. But at least the traffic should be okay on the way home at 6:30. Well, fingers crossed. And it's only for 2 months. I'll survive. But yeah, like finding time in between that to train is going to be kind of a pain. I'll figure something out. It'll be like the only 2 things I'm doing in March and April, which is fine. I want to get my hours in. And something else, maybe I can do this on stream, that I want to go through is for the CPA stuff, like what do I need? And like how can I make sure that I'm properly tracking my time and like getting sign off on my CPA stuff so that I like the time that I'm working is actually like it actually counts towards something. So I need to remember to do that too. Okay. So I don't know why I keep going to that screen. It's literally the wrong screen. I got this little like pull-out keyboard tray, and it's really cool, and it's exactly what I wanted. It's just a tiny bit small, but I couldn't really get a bigger one because of the way the desk is. Like I did get a bigger one, and it didn't really fit, so I had to downsize. And it is what it is. I just have to deal with it. It is like there is enough space for like the mouse and the keyboard, but it's like cutting it a bit close for my liking. But whatever. I'm still very happy. Still very happy with the purchase. With the present, I should say. Okay, so what am I doing today? Let's find out. So yeah, okay, we went through like purchase orders, like open bills, and like you can make payments, you can create bills or expenses, you can see what was paid recently. Maybe suppliers paid recently. Oh yeah, transaction list, or you can open up the transactions. See the bill payment that we just made. There's an action to print the check. We can view the bill. Always yawning, nothing has changed. And it's been paid, okay. So it's been paid, but it has to be printed. I see. And then we had bills. And we also had like receipts. There was a way to like add receipts. Yeah. In accounting, you could add receipts, so you can upload it, or from their mobile app, you could like take a picture. I guess today we're going to be doing like this stuff, reconcile rules and chart of accounts. So let's see. Let's have a look-see at that. The bank feed is a crucial component. Linking clients' bank accounts enables online to match recorded sales to the corresponding money in and out transaction, which is a huge time saver. I had this like conversation yesterday, which is like, are you allowed to have like if you're a sole proprietor and you only have like a bank transaction and you write something off on your taxes, but then you don't actually have the physical copy of the receipt to prove that transaction. I think it's kind of crazy. Like I don't know if you got audited. Like, I guess it depends on the amounts and if you had like the receipts to back it up. But to me, it makes more sense that like I guess the receipts show you like the date and the time and like the amount of money spent. Theoretically, so should your credit card statement. But the point I'm trying to make is like I heard, and I don't know if this is true, and it's something I'm gonna have to figure out, that for taxes, like you can't just have a credit card statement, you also need the receipts to back up what's on the credit card statement. And if you get audited and you only have credit card statements, then you may not be able to write those things off. I don't know if this is true. This is just speculation. This is just what I've heard. But yeah, I need to learn and find out if it is true.
The bank feed is a very important feature of QuickBooks Online, and so important that it is available free with all subscription levels. It includes unlimited bank feed connections, so you can connect your bank accounts, your credit cards, your lines of credit. Any type of financial activity can be recorded. It's going to keep track of your app transactions, so that can include your Stripe, your Square, your PayPals. Multi-currency can be available. So if you're using multi-currency in your QBO, you can connect to your US bank account, your euro, your Chinese yen, multiple currencies. There's over 200 available to connect to QBO, and the bank feed can handle all of them. Smart learning is a function specific to QBO, and you're going to love the power that
Did she say Chinese yen? Maybe she meant Japanese yen. I'm pretty sure China does not have a yen. I think it's like the oh, I can see how maybe you would say it like that. Yuan. I'm probably saying it wrong. Okay, fine. Acceptable. I thought it was something completely different. I actually didn't know, so I guess she was closer than me.
Smart learning provides.
Should make fun
QBO
of myself.
will watch and learn from the existing transactions that you post, the transactions that you match. It will look for the similarities and make recommendations regarding categorizing or tax handling or how you should go ahead and process a transaction based on the past. It will also help you set up recurring or rules as far as processing transactions in the future. We'll get into that a little bit later on. As with bank feeds, as with your QBO, you can access it anywhere, anytime, as long as you've got an internet connection. That means on your desktop, your laptop, your tablet, your mobile device, your iPad, all of those things. So you can see how by connecting your bank feed, you're going to save a lot of time. Instead of having to data enter every single transaction that comes through the bank account or the credit card, QuickBooks has already read that information for you and already tried to pre-code it or get it ready for posting so that you can review it and hit the post or the match feature. So that's why you want to use your bank feeds, and let's get more into it as we move through this section. There are a number of benefits that you are going to be rewarded with by connecting your bank feed. So first of all, financial transactions are downloaded automatically. This eliminates the need to access online banking and import everything manually. In the past, the transactions came in every 24 hours. They were quote unquote scraped. Now I believe that has sped up to every 4 to 6 hours. The transactions are coming into your QBO product. So that is a constant wheel that's turning. And as you work through your day, you may see new transactions show up in your bank feed that require your attention. It can also allow your users to reconcile the accounts more frequently than waiting for that mailed paper copy with the monthly statement at the end of the month, right? We work in a very fast-paced environment these days, and waiting to the end of the month to try to reconcile an account can clog up your life and your workflow and lead to long hours a few days every month rather than being able to manage out the workflow. How does that happen? Well, you can reconcile on a daily basis, a weekly basis, bi-weekly, maybe twice a month is what suits you. And you don't have to close the reconciliation. Reconciling doesn't mean completing the month end, but it does mean that up to a certain date or day of the week, you can reconcile to that particular component. And we'll show you that as we work through this particular section. It also allows you to create rules to support the bookkeeping process. You may have a QBO subscription show up every single month for the same amount. You can code that rule or create that rule within your QuickBooks Online software so that when the software sees that transaction, it's going to process it for you and you don't even need to see it. It's all going to happen behind the scenes. And then very importantly, because sometimes the CRA is going to come asking for receipts and documentation, when you add a transaction using your bank feeds, you are able to attach the supporting document, whether that's a gas receipt or a lawyer's bill or a monthly rent transaction. You can always attach a supporting document so that your transactions are supported and you've got audit ready information. Okay.
Okay, I think that actually, so I asked that question and I think that just answered it, but now I will Google it. You generally need more than just a credit card statement. You need detailed itemized receipts or invoices to prove expenses for tax purposes. Need to be able to substantiate what the expense actually was. I can see that. I guess if you bought like 25 things from Staples for like $200, they might want to see that you didn't like sneak in like $20 personal item. Yeah. That's basically exactly what I just said. That makes sense. Senor Kim Jong Doof. What a username. What a username.
When we're going to connect the bank feed for the very, very first time, you're going to open up your QuickBooks Online data file. So here we've got blue sample data. You're going to head on over to your transaction center, click the very first tab, which are your bank transactions, and you're going to see a screen that looks just like this. It's going to ask you to automate your income and expense tracking. You can watch a short video to see how it works, if that makes you happy, if that's interesting to you. And then you're going to see there's 3 steps. So what we're going to do next is click our big green button and connect the account. So this screen only displays when there are no existing connected bank feeds, right? We're going to show you in just a few slides on how to connect, say, your 2nd, 3rd, or 10th bank feed. For now, we go ahead, click. We're going to be presented with this particular window here. And what we're going to do with it is enter in the name of our bank or its URL. You can see that the top 8 or the most recent 8 financial institutions are listed here. And this list will change each time you open this up. Sometimes TD is first, sometimes Bank of Montreal is up there. These are just very popular ones so that you can click them if perhaps you're trying to connect a Scotiabank. If you don't see that what you want, start entering in the information here. And it is more than likely that QuickBooks is going to be able to connect to it because as you can see, they do support more than 20,000 local and international banks. Once you've entered in your URL, you're going to be presented with the information to sign in to your online banking. In this case, we can see that we're signing into a Bank of Montreal. We're entering in our 16-number debit card, and we're entering our password. Then we're going to go ahead and click continue. Next up, you're going to get a pop-up little window that says that it's connecting and bringing in all the accounts. Then
oh shit. Trying to move my stupid mouse cable to somewhere that's not going to disappear on me. I need one of those like mouse cable holder thingies. This is really annoying for the mouse cable to just be falling all the time. Okay, what am I doing? I'm watching this.
Then you're going to be asked to map the online accounts to your QBO.
Okay, this whole video is kind of, maybe not the whole video, but I feel like when you go through the setup process, you kind of figure it out as you go.
Accounts. So you can see that QuickBooks is asking which accounts. We've got a checking account ending in 826, and we have a Bank of Montreal MasterCard account. By choosing the drop down, we can go ahead and connect the checking to the checking if that is correct, or if we need to, we can add one on the fly. In this particular case, we'll go ahead and select checking. The next one that's going to pop up is QBO is going to ask you what date range would you like to bring the transactions in from. Typically, it will default to 90 days.
I feel like QuickBooks probably has like the most financial data of like small to medium businesses.
Or you can select a different date by choosing the drop-down menu option. You can see that there are some standards, today, this month, this year, or last year, or you can select a custom date. So do consider the status of the books when you are selecting. Maybe a completed fiscal year end, the very first day of the new fiscal year is going to be a good choice. Maybe you've already completed a month end and the first day of the new month is going to be a good choice, but do put some thought into it because you'll want to, wherever possible, to be able to automatically bring in all of the transactions that you're going to need to process. The typical default is 90 days, but you have got the option to make your choice here. Once you've picked your appropriate date range, go ahead and click connect. QuickBooks is going to bring in your transactions. This will take a moment or a few minutes, depending on the volumes. Then you'll be presented with the all set. You click done and you are ready to go. What happens next? Well, first we want to give you a tip. Please note that when you bring in your QBO transactions and you connect that bank account for the very first time, one of two things is going to happen. QuickBooks may post, you see that's underlined, they might post the bank balance as at date of the import. So if you recall, we imported from January 1st, and QuickBooks may post or plug an entry for that opening balance. In this case, QuickBooks has posted a plug or a brand new opening entry to the opening balance equity account of $362.86. Where can you find this? You stay in your bank in your transactions. We know we were just working in our bank transactions section. Head on over to the chart of accounts. In the search field, type opening, and that should bring up or filter the opening balance equity account. You can see the number. You're going to click the account history here and go ahead and look at that. So let me walk you through that just quickly again. When QBO connects to the financial institution, it records the balance as at the import date and offsets it to your opening balance equity account. Typically, this transaction will need to be deleted because it will disrupt the bank reconciliation function because it will create a duplicate beginning balance amount. Now, there's two ifs associated with this. If you post an opening entry balance to QBO before connecting the bank, this step will not be required. But if the bank is connected to QBO to an account that was created on the fly, QBO will post the bank balance as at the date of import to the chart of accounts, and you will be required to delete this transaction. The third if is if the bank account is connected.
I don't know why. I was like thinking about just fucking crazy
Where
shit.
can you find this?
Okay.
You stay in your bank in your transactions. We know we were just working in our bank transactions section. Head on over to the chart of accounts. In the search field, type opening, and that should bring up or filter the opening balance equity account. You can see the number. You're going to click the account history here.
Okay, click
And
account
go ahead
history.
and look at that. So let me walk you through that just quickly again. When QBO connects to the financial institution, it records the balance as at the import date and offsets it to your opening balance equity account. Typically, this transaction will need to be deleted because it will disrupt the bank reconciliation function because it will create a duplicate beginning balance amount. Now, there's two ifs associated with this.
You have to delete
if
that.
You post an opening entry balance to QBO before connecting the bank, this step will not be required. But if the bank is connected to QBO to an account that was created on the fly, QBO will post.
If you put an opening balance before connecting to the bank account, then you don't have to delete it. Otherwise, you do have to delete it because it'll have a duplicate entry.
The bank balance as at the date of import to the chart of accounts, and you will be required to delete this transaction. The third if is if the bank account is connected to QBO without prior posting of an opening balance journal entry.
I have to take a phone call. 1 second. Okay, so funny thing, I just got scheduled in for another interview. I was supposed to go to one that was like way too far. This one is still really far, but less far. Um, so it's kind of good. Like I was gonna, I don't know. I'm so confused because I was gonna cancel, and I did. I like canceled on the interview, but then they still called me back and asked me if I can come in for an interview, which like seems kind of crazy if you ask me. Like, do you want to talk to someone who doesn't like, I don't know. I guess I'm worried that I'm going to commute 2 hours and it won't be worth anyone's time to have done the commute. Maybe not even the commute, but like it won't be worth anyone's time to have had the meeting. Um, I guess I'm going for a 2 hour joyride. In the Oh my god, getting home is gonna be so freaking annoying. I'm not looking forward to that at all. Balls. Okay, arrived by 3:30 doesn't really, saying I'm gonna get there at 3:29 does not inspire confidence. But these buses only come every hour by the looks of it. That's the same bus, except I have to leave earlier. Yeah, once every hour. Oh man. Okay. That still kind of sucks. How about getting home? Let's see. Commuting fucking 2.5 hours for a 30-minute interview. Arrive, no, depart at 4:30. Yeah, it's 2.5 hours back. Oh man. I guess it is what it is. What highway is this? Oh man, I'm gonna be right during rush hour. Fuck. Whatever. At least I won't be the one driving. I guess that's the plus side. Okay. So I guess I'll set myself an alarm for when I have to leave. I'm gonna do I'm gonna do the one that's cutting it way too close, but I don't really have a better option. Oh wait, no, this is a new one. Oh, that's the other direction. Okay. Wow. So I have to set myself an alarm for like a bit later. I'm gonna have lunch, so. Okay, I had about 2 hours. Wow, that's wild. That's crazy. So many like weird things have been happening. I guess when you just like start applying to things, like stuff starts to happen a bit. All right, let me get back into this QuickBooks thing, and then I'm probably only gonna stream for like another hour and a half, and then I'll give myself some time to like review for this interview, and then get ready, and then go. Very exciting.
QBO will post the balance offset to the opening balance equity, and this account will need to be deleted. Okay.
Okay.
So what do we do next? Well, we're going to expand that particular transaction. Here it is. We can see that we connected the bank account on April 22. The opening balance was $362.86, and we want to go ahead and delete that account. If you do not delete it, your first bank reconciliation for the month of April will be out by this amount. Okay? That's the final step there. So now that we've connected the bank feed, what we're going to do is go back to our bank transactions page in our transactions center, and we can see now that the checking account has been connected. It was updated on April 22, and QBO brought in 13 transactions. You're going to notice that the bank balance is $362.86,
Okay.
and in QuickBooks, the amount is.
Let me go back.
Okay. That's the final step there. So now that we've connected the bank feed, what we're going to do is go back to our bank transactions page by this amount. Okay. That's the final particular transaction. Here it is. Opening balance journal entry. QBO will post the balance offset to the opening balance equity, and this account will need to be deleted. Okay. So
Okay.
what do we do next?
So
Well, we're going to expand that particular transaction. Here it is. We can see that we connected the bank account on April 22. The opening balance was $362.86. Bank. Okay. What we're going to do is go back to our bank transactions page in our transactions center, and we can see now that the checking account has been connected. It was updated on April 22, and QBO brought in 13 transactions. You're going to notice that the bank balance is $362.86, and in QuickBooks, the amount is $1,800 or $1,809.64. That amount may differ from time to time because maybe there's more transactions in QBO than have cleared the bank. Maybe checks have been issued, or maybe deposits have been recorded that haven't yet been reflected in the bank account. Or today's date is April 30th, and for some reason, this needs to be updated, so we need to click our.
It's so crazy to me that, like, I guess businesses still operate on checks. Like, I don't operate on checking accounts. Like, it just seems kind of wild.
Update button to bring in any outstanding transactions between April 22 and April 30th, and then that will bring.
Like, I mean, I do all my transfers like online.
These two numbers in balance. So there's lots of valid reasons why these numbers don't match 100%. And as you get started with QBO, you will go ahead and investigate those discrepancies so that you become familiar with the way the system works and talks to each other. And then you'll be able to know at a glance in the data files that you're working on what the discrepancy is and if there's any action that you need to take. Okay? The number 13 means that there are 13 unprocessed bank feed transactions. So if we were to scroll down on the screenshot, we would see 13 different transactions that require our attention. It's orange because the transactions are old. If they were all current in the last few days, this number would be.
I need to run today too.
Reflected in the color blue. So there's a lot going on in what appears to be a very simple screenshot, right? So last but not least, you also have a drop down where you can expand and go ahead. Maybe you've got multiple accounts connected. Maybe there's 5 or 6. This drop down will allow you to jump between bank feed accounts. Okay? And that takes us through to connecting the very first bank feed. Next up, you might need to attach more bank feeds. Maybe you've got a savings account. Maybe you've got credit card accounts. In this case, you're going to open up your transaction center, find your bank transactions page. And then when we look at the top right section in there, you can see that we've got banking alerts, link account, and update. What we want to do is select the drop down. Okay,
I need to like take a mental break for a second. I can't focus right now. Like I need to look up some things. This is just not, I can't, this is not, yeah. I just need like a 2-second break. All right, I'm back. I think I took like a 20-minute break from the stream. Yeah, I had to kind of like plan some stuff around. I had to plan some stuff. I just got a spam comment on my Twitch chat. Oh, of course, my session timed out and it's doxing me. Great. I'm gonna have to do that in the edit again. This is very annoying. All right, let me sign in. Time out and show my email to the world. I guess they're not really expecting people to be streaming this, but still. Is there a pro tax? Okay, just logging back in. What am I doing? Where's my... I know I sound like kind of sad, and I'm not. I'm not sad about like having an interview or anything like that. I'm just stressed, so it kind of comes across as like me being sad. But I'm pretty happy. I'm pretty happy that I managed to score myself an interview. Another one. Man, doing screen capture might just not be the move because I keep doxing myself. Like, good lord. Oh. Okay. It's just like, ay, 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 ay. Okay. All I wanted to do was open this. And this is probably gonna dox me too. Please don't make me log in. Okay. Save. Holy holy moly, man. Okay, can I finally get back to what I was doing? Can I finally get back to what I was doing? Okay, here we go. Okay, where was I? Did I finish this video?
There's 5 or 6. Lots of valid reasons why these numbers don't match 100%. And as you get started with QBO, you will go ahead and investigate those discrepancies so that you become familiar with the way the system works and talks to each other. And then you'll be able to know at a glance in the data files that you're working on what the discrepancy is and if there's any action that you need to take. Okay? The number 13 means that there are 13 unprocessed bank feed transactions. So if we were to scroll down on the screenshot, we would see 13 different transactions that require our attention. It's orange because the transactions are old. If they were all current in the last few days, this number would be reflected in the color blue. So there's a lot going on in what appears to be a very simple screenshot, right? So last but not least, you also have a drop down where you can expand and go ahead. Maybe you've got multiple accounts connected. Maybe there's 5 or 6. This drop down will allow you to jump between bank feed accounts. Okay? And that takes us through to connecting the very first bank feed. Next up, you might need to attach more bank feeds. Maybe you've got a savings account, maybe you've got credit card accounts. In this case, you're going to open up your transaction center, find your bank transactions page, and then when we look at the top right section in there, you can see that we've got banking alerts, link account, and update. What we want to do is select the drop down of our linked account. In this particular case, we could go ahead and link a new account where we will be presented with that same workflow that we've just walked through, which is entering our online banking credentials, mapping it to the correct bank account in QBO or adding it on the fly, and bringing in those transactions. Okay? You can also upload from file, which we're going to cover in a later episode, or in the case where we've attached everything, we can see that the bank account was updated 2 hours ago, but we've made some transaction, we'd like to see them reflected. We can go ahead and manually trigger an update or a communication between the bank and our QBO file. Okay. Sometimes you will see notifications. So in this case, there's a banking alert. There's one notification for us to review. We will go ahead and click that button and review the banking alert. Sometimes there are known breakages between a bank and the QBO file, and that's often due to the bank updating their website. And so the links to QBO in the back end need to be updated in order to have the connection be active and working. Sometimes you will find a connection has been broken because perhaps you or your business owner has changed the password on the online banking connection. And so you'll need to go in, manage connections, and update those credentials. Typically, it's an updated password, and that is usually what's happened. Sometimes you might want to import transaction manually, but we're going to cover that in the next lesson. Third-party connection. So this is an FYI only because it's not yet fully developed. So there's not a ton that we can train you on, but this is a sneak peek into the future. So do watch for future in-product notifications. When you are in your transaction center, you know that we've got a number of different pages that we can view. We've got this new app transaction center right now where you can sync your sales channel data with QuickBooks Online. I share this with you so that you can explore it on your own if it is something that you're interested in, but for now, we just want to bring it to your attention. And that concludes how we connect our bank feeds to our QBO product.
Oh, cool. Square became expensive, I guess. Bank transactions, connect. Yeah. See how it works. Okay, so we have the credit card, the checking. She said the 12. Okay, we're on that account. The 12 in orange mean they need to be categorized. Or like added to our reconciliation. Connected accounts are easier to reconcile. I mean, I think we did that. We don't import statements. Which account do you want to reconcile? Okay, I need to watch the video on that one because I don't actually know how to do that. That's that. Okay, continue. How to connect new bank feeds. Cool. Import transactions. Importing transactions.
Sometimes importing our bank feed transactions is going to be required because simply connecting the account is not going to be sufficient to bring in all the transactions that we need. Perhaps we need to bring in the fiscal year to date, and the most that the bank will allow us to do is to upload or to connect the last 90 days. So we'll certainly connect the 90 days, and then we're going to want to bring in those previous 90 days to ensure that our bank feed is ready for all of the transactions that we need to process. So where do we begin? We go to our transaction center, we head on over to our bank transactions page, we see that we've got one account connected, and perhaps we need to bring in more transactions than are currently available. We're going to select our drop-down under linked account and choose upload from file. That's going to pop up this nice little window. It's going to walk you through the process. And what you can do is just read this. What's going to happen is it's going to open a new tab so you can sign into your online banking. We're going to encourage you to download the bank statement or the bank transaction activity, either in CSV, QFX, QBO, OFX, or text format. Once you've done that, you're going to go to step 3 and either drag and drop that file, access to your laptop, and download the transactions. Just what happens? Well, this puts you in control of the range of data that's going to be imported at a time. So maybe you've connected and uploaded the last 90 days, but maybe you've got a whole year's worth of transactions to upload. You get to control that. Maybe you want to import only 1 month at a time, process the transaction, reconcile them, and move forward. Maybe you want to import a quarter at a time, to import a whole year's worth. Once you have uploaded that statement, you can go ahead and click next. Right, so we've uploaded our JTraining bank feed in a CSV format. That now releases the continue button that we can select, and that's going to bring up our window within our QBO product that's going to ask us to match and start the mapping to the QBO file to the uploaded document. So we've selected a CSV. We're going to choose the bank account to connect it to, checking account, savings account, or maybe we need to add a new one on the fly. Once we've selected the QuickBooks account, we can go ahead and click continue. And here we have the opportunity to verify and import our transactions. This is an important note for you to check. Sometimes our income transactions come in as a positive number and expenses as a negative number, but sometimes the bank sends us file that are reversed. So you'll always want to be sure that the positive or negative view of the amount is going to be correct. So intact insurance, we would expect that to be an expense. We want to see that as a negative number. Our income transaction is an important note. Go ahead and click continue. And here we have the opportunity to verify and import our transactions. This is an important note for you to check. Sometimes our income transactions come in as a positive number and expenses as a negative number, but sometimes the bank sends us file that are reversed. So you'll always want to be sure that the positive or negative view of the amount is going to be correct. So intact insurance, we would expect that to be an expense. We want to see that as a negative. A deposit, we definitely want to see that as a negative. We want to see the deposit as a positive. If this was reversed, that the intact was a positive, please, please, please double check this. MasterCard or a credit card account, we'll want to see the intact and positive value, and our payment will reverse all the values. It commonly has a positive value. The credit card account, we'll want to see the intact insurance come in as a positive number because that's an expense account, which commonly has a positive value, and our payment would be a negative amount. So do think it through. Be sure that you want to keep or reverse all the values. Select all the transactions. If
As a layperson, that credit card thing is kind of confusing. It took me, well, like I got my first credit card when I was 18, but it took me a while to figure out how that works. Like, why do number go up when I spend? Should not number go down?
perhaps the upload contains transactions that are already in QBO, you can always deselect it, but you'll want to be sure that you get this right. Okay? Next up, you do get the opportunity to verify. QuickBooks is going to say, okay, we're ready to import the 17 transactions using the fields that you chose. You can still look behind the scenes and make sure that it's going to be correct. If you are all set, go ahead and select yes, and then your import will be completed. You're now in control of how the bank info goes into QuickBooks, and now you can click done and proceed. Now you see we had 5 transactions a moment ago. Now we have 17 showing up in our checking account that we can now start processing. If you've imported any transactions in error, maybe you imported a greater date range than you needed, or you didn't double check those balances and you've brought them in as opposites, you can go ahead and exclude them. You'll go ahead and select all the transactions that you need, toggle the batch, and push them into your excluded file, right? When we are looking at our bank feed, so here we're looking at our checking account, we've got 17 transactions to review. They show up in our review tab. Once we process them, they're moved into our categorize tab, and if we have imported them in error, we can move them from review directly into our excluded tab. And we're going to talk about excluded in a future lesson. Okay? And that is how we're going to import. Congratulations, you've now imported transactions.
Yay, import. Process. Oops.
Processing bank feed transactions can maybe seem a little bit intimidating at first, but with a little bit of familiarity and a little bit of practice, you're going to absolutely enjoy the time savings, the accuracy, and the helpfulness of QuickBooks Online when you're processing the financial transactions for your clients. So let's start with a bit of a bird's eye view. Let's go to our transaction center. We're in our bank transactions page. And what are we looking at? Well, we see that with this particular file, we've got
This is the same sample company I'm using. Finally, something relevant.
2 accounts that are currently connected to bank feed. How do we know that? Because they're displayed with these Kanban cards. That's what these business card shaped rectangles mean. The next thing we notice is that we're viewing our checking account because that is what is displayed here at the top. We can also tell because it is blue. And what that means is the activities or the transactions listed below are related to the checking account. If we were to select the Visa credit card, then the gray would turn to blue over here. The checking account would now be gray, and we would be viewing the 8 transactions under the Visa account that are ready for our processing and review. In here, we see the bank balance is showing as a minus 3210. That means that Visa has a debit balance on its account. It's been overpaid. But we see in QuickBooks, there's an amount owing on that Visa.
Weird.
Of 2077.60 cents. That can be a timing issue. That might mean that the bank feed needs to be updated because it is not current. There are a number of good reasons why these numbers do not match. Okay? With our checking account, very similarly, you can see that we have 12 transactions that need to be processed. And you might be wondering, why is the 12 orange and the 8 blue? Well, the 8 is blue because those are current transactions. The 12 in orange indicates some of these transactions are old and perhaps require your more immediate attention because the work has fallen a little bit behind or it needs to be caught up or brought up to date. Okay? You can also reorder your accounts. Maybe you want to see the checking account first and then the Visa. You have that ability here. And you can hide or reorder the accounts as well. So sometimes you're going to want to move them around. Sometimes you might want to hide something because it's just clogging up your system and it's maybe very rarely used. And that really just defines our bank transactions page. Whichever account you have highlighted is going to be reflected in the transactions below. Checking account is highlighted. We can see that we've got ATM deposit shown here. That makes sense to us. When we are wanting to process, let's move down and talk about that grid column for a minute. You can see this is our standard default columns. So date, detail, payee, category match, tax spent, received, and action. And each one of these columns hosts different information and has a different source of knowledge. So for example, let's talk about the bank feed. When we connect QBO to a checking account, for example, there's going to be the opportunity to either show the description, which is QBO's interpretation of the bank detail, or the bank detail itself. We always recommend as a best practice that you click your micro gear and toggle on the show bank details option, because then you have an identical match from your online banking detail to the QuickBooks detail that shows up here.
I don't see that option. Oh. Show bank details. What did that do? Okay. From the bank feed, date, bank detail, amount, spent or received, payee, category or match for the ProAdvisor action. Okay.
So when you've connected to a bank feed, the date, the bank detail, and the amount, so the amount showing in spent and received, are your source of truth from the bank. Okay. None of this is QBO interpreting. This is directly from the bank feed. It's going to be a 100% match. Okay. From QBO Smart Learning, we've got 3 more categories. So the payee, category or match, and the tax column. These are all a function of QBO trying to be smart or to learn from the transactions that you've posted. And the very first line is a terrific example of QBO being smart. You can see the bank detail on January 2 is Intact Insurance. QuickBooks has recognized that Intact Insurance is an existing supplier. The category or match says, hey, we already have recorded to our GL an expense transaction for that amount, for that supplier on January 1st for that same amount. Okay, so all
I don't see any matches. Okay. I guess that's fine.
all of those things are in alignment. All of those things are in alignment. It makes sense to us that the transaction is posted on the first day of the month, so that's our monthly insurance payment. But we also know that January 1st is a stat holiday, so it didn't clear the bank till January 2. So in reviewing all of the content, both QBO Smart Learning and the bank detail, we can be confident and match this particular transaction. So the ProAdvisor can take the appropriate action of matching this transaction. What does that mean? It means that it's going to pre-reconcile the GL transaction to the bank feed. So when you go to process your bank reconciliation at the end of the month, QuickBooks has already said, hey, you've already validated this. You don't need to look at it again. You can still look at it again, but you don't need to because you've done it in this particular first step. Okay, so that's what's going to happen. Our QBO Smart Learning still requires your ProAdvisor validation or update, but what it's going to do is it's going to suggest a category based on similar previous transactions. Great example of that is January 8. We see that there's an email transfer fee of $1.50. And we see that the category, the GL code, is in green font. That's because QuickBooks knows that in the past, when it has seen email transfer fee for $1.50, you've coded it in the past to bank charges. So QuickBooks is helping you by updating this information so that you can look at it, validate it, and click Add. Add means it's now going to post that journal entry to your QBO file because it doesn't currently exist. That is the difference between match, which is matching to an existing journal entry.
Okay, so you match it to an existing entry or like an expense that we already recorded. You're matching it to the bank feed. Add we haven't recorded, so we post that to the journal.
Or add, it's going to post that journal entry for you. Okay? If we move down to January 18, we can see it's black font and QuickBooks is suggesting that you transfer this to uncategorized asset. Well, as bookkeepers, we know that's not where we want it to go, but QuickBooks doesn't know what to do, so it has defaulted a black font so that you know that you need to intervene and make the correct updates to this transaction before either recording it or adding it. Okay? Sometimes the Smart Learning is going to create a rule or suggest that you create a rule based on an action that you've taken in the past. So typically that's a 2 transaction. So as soon as you do something twice, QuickBooks is going to say, hey, instead of you having to waste your time doing this every single time, why don't we create a rule? So the email transfer is a good example. It has recommended the bank charges because you have previously once coded it to bank charges. If we went ahead and added this bank charge a second time, you're going to get a pop-up window to suggest you create a rule, right? And then the third option is that sometimes QuickBooks will identify a potential paired transaction. And that's when it's reading not just the GL, but other connected bank feeds and saying, hey, this bank feed transaction seems to match with that bank feed transaction. And we're going to cover that a little bit later on, okay? So now we know which transactions come from the bank, which columns come from Smart Learning, and that your responsibility is to take the appropriate action. So read and review and validate the information or update it before you take the appropriate action from the action column. When you are ready to go ahead and process these, you're going to look more in depth at your category or match. So your money in transactions may show a sales receipt. They may show an invoice.
Money in sales receipt, invoice, payment, deposit. Expense bill.
They may show a payment, they may show a deposit.
Paired.
And each one of these titles represents a different stage of your money in workflow.
But your money in workflow, like you won't
So in the case of a deposit showing, so the bank shows that it's a bank deposit, the payee, QuickBooks says, hey, wait a minute, I have a sales receipt on that exact same day for that exact same amount. Do these two things go together?
Okay, that explains it. So the bank itself will only have like deposits and draws, like spend and receive, but then it can match to a sales receipt, to an invoice, or some other payment that you made that's already recorded.
The sales receipt may or may not be coded to your checking account. It may or may not be coded to your undeposited funds account. So matching it may or may not be the right transaction. You'll want to expand that. You may want to add the bank deposit step to your workflow so that instead of matching to a sales receipt, you're going to match to a deposit, such as you see on January 9. On January 9, we have a deposit. Payee is showing as intact insurance because we have recorded a deposit in QBO on January 9 for intact insurance for that amount. So I would be confident in matching the January 9 transaction. I might want to post another entry in QBO before I go ahead to match the sales receipt because I'm not 100% confident that that is a match. Similarly, with deposit on January 12, we can see that QuickBooks is finding another match, but what it's finding is an open balance and outstanding invoice. So this may be correct, but we'll want to go back and actually receive the payment from Tundra Textiles and record the deposit, because what if this $10,000 deposit is not for this open invoice, but rather an accumulation of 3 different payments that coincidentally need to add up to $10,724.76. So smart learning is great. You still need to be the person that validates and ensures that you're matching or adding the correct transactions to the correct bank feeds, right? On the money outside, same situation. We've got an expense. We know that we've looked at all of that and we're happy to go ahead and match it. When it relates to a bill, such as we have Starbucks Courier in the bottom, it would appear that.
Okay, let me see. Oh boy. I think you guys can hear the bass from upstairs. I think if I put a limiter on, it will get rid of that. How do I do that? It's so loud, man. Limiter. Negative. What do you mean minus 6 dB threshold? Oh, that like limits the top end. No, that's not what I want. I want a filter, equalizer, compressor, expander, gain, invert, limiter, noise gate. Maybe a noise gate. Hello. Okay, I think that fixed it. Let me lower the low threshold. 40. But the open threshold is only 26, which I'm not a fan of. Yeah, let's make it like minus 35. Okay, let's see if that helps. Okay, so this is uncategorized. It's an ATM deposit. So these are all cash deposits, which is kind of weird. Spent. These ones should be easy. Like Supply Depot. Supply Depot. Okay, so in this version, it's like here. So what if we match? Oh, hello. It's gonna give me like a better date range. So this one was on, should not be in 2024. Should be like here maybe. Like here to December. Oh wait, that's November. Oh, whatever. $200. I don't actually see the city water. Expenses. Bill payments. Checks. Man, this, I see the issue. This whole like sample company is a fucking mess. There's like nothing recorded. Okay. Maybe one of these days I'll fix the entire thing. That could be my like trial
A bill on
run.
January 15 for this amount that has not yet been paid maybe has been paid on January 29. That may make sense. If they're set up on a PAD, maybe we want to go ahead and click match. More likely, we want to go in and record this payment and then match it as either the check that has been used to pay it or the direct debit information. So again, we're always going to want to look at these in more detail before we take the appropriate action. So these are the columns that we're going to focus on as the ProAdvisor. The last type of action that you might see is a transfer, and a transfer can either be a received or a spent. It might show up in either column. In this case, we see it's an email transfer, probably to a supplier. So we'll want to go and investigate that particular transaction, find out who was paid, possibly multiple invoices paid to one supplier, which is why QuickBooks can't identify it or help you on its own. Okay? So when we talk about a paired transaction, that's going to display in our bank feed as a paired to another transaction. When does this happen? Well, it only happens when both the money in and the money out activity are in the bank feed connected accounts. So in this case, it might show up as a spend in the checking account and as a debit in the Visa bank feed connected account. So QuickBooks sees the same amount, the same bank detail, the same date in both and says, hey, you know what? This isn't yet recorded to the GL. Do you want me to match both of these and record the appropriate entry? Well, you'll first want to investigate. Click the bank feed entry so that it expands it and you can see all of the details to be sure that you're going to record this correctly before you click add. In this case, we could record it as a credit card payment because we're going from checking account to our credit card account. Maybe it's just bank account to bank account in case you would choose record a transfer. And then what are you going to do? You're going to choose the correct account. Maybe you want to connect this to your TD Bank. Maybe you can just want to leave it blank. There's the paired details. And here's just some information that when you add this, QuickBooks in the behind the scenes is going to record that payment going in and out. So you'll see the impact on both accounts. So by processing this once through one bank feed, it's going to post to not only this chart of accounts, but to the second GL code, record it, match it, and voila, you are done. Now,
Nice.
sometimes QuickBooks is not going to find a match, and we're going to cover that in the next section. So here we have we're adding the money out transactions. In this case, we see that we have a Staples transaction. QuickBooks doesn't know what to do with it. So it has just coded it in the gray font and said uncategorized transaction. So we click to expand the line, which brings us up this big gray window where we can choose the type of transaction, either expense or bill, whatever the case may be. In this case, we know it's an expense because we have probably paid for this on our credit card. So we're going to record it as an expense. We're going to validate that, yes, this is Staples. We're likely going to change this to office supplies or office expenses. Or if we're using products and services, maybe this is a resale product, and we can go ahead, click the drop down and find the appropriate product or service. If we need to, we can connect it to a customer. If we need to, we can make it billable. Then we see by the asterisk, we must choose a tax code. Do know that this is always the inclusive of tax amount. So inclusive of tax would be 100 plus HST in the case of HST selected. If we're using location, we can choose that, or we can assign a class if we're using that as well as a tag. Maybe we want to put in a memo. Maybe this was information that we want to add. These are the blue file folders or these are the green file folders, anything that might be useful for us in the future if we have to come back and examine this transaction. Last but not least, we have a whole bunch more options here below where we can add an attachment. Maybe we've got the physical receipt for Staples and we want to add it because it's billable and we want to be able to share it with our client. But adding the attachment can be a great way to have a full audit ready set of books. And we always encourage you to add it either from the bank feed or from the actual transaction level as well. Sometimes you might want to create a rule. I mentioned that bank feed in the past, that if you see $1.50 for your email transfers, you might want to make a rule so that QuickBooks always remembers and gives you the right GL coding and makes it fast and efficient for you to go ahead and match, or add your transactions and really streamline your month end because you're doing work pre-month end. Okay. Maybe you need to exclude this. Sometimes you need to exclude it, and we'll talk in more detail in a few minutes, but maybe it's a duplicate. Maybe you've already reconciled, but we'll talk about those details. And then categorization history. This is a fantastic field, especially when you're starting out with a brand new client where, is it office supplies on this set of chart of accounts, or is it office expenses in this chart of accounts? Maybe it's office and admin. Maybe you don't remember what the specific GL code is, so you can click the categorization history, and that will help guide you to choosing the right account.
No categorization history. It does not have. Dude. There's no account numbers. I think that was in settings where you could add the general ledger numbers. Yeah. Still don't see it. Asset, liability, and equity accounts appear on the balance sheet. Here we have an account history. But we don't have any history of categorization. Oh, fuck. Does that mean all of my expenses are uncategorized? Okay, inventory, prepaid expenses, accounts receivables, undeposited funds, accumulated depreciation, furniture, leasehold improvements, vehicles. These are all balance sheet accounts. Probably don't have to worry too much about that. To retained earnings and owner's equity. Billable expense income, commission income, discounts given, fees billed, markup, service fee, refunds, sales discounts, sales of product services, commission paid, and cost of goods sold. Cost of sales, billable expenses, entertainment booking fees paid on behalf of clients, inventory shrinkage, merchant account fees, printed materials purchased for clients, insurance, interest, meals, entertainment, office expenses, printing, professional fees, promotion, purchase, rent or lease. What do I have? 2 rent or lease. I guess an expense and payment may be different. That doesn't really make sense. I guess I'll leave it for now.
And getting it right the first time without having to leave your bank feed, open up another window, and go back and review this particular supplier in detail. You can do so right here on the fly before you click add. Yes, you can split. We're not going to cover that here, but adding the account is what we're talking about in this window. Sometimes you might to add an open invoice to a deposit. Not recommended, but to refresh, when you are receiving payments, you'll want to go to your client profile, receive the payment, or go to your plus new button, receive the payment, and code it to your undeposited funds. Then use your bank deposit menu item and record that money going from your undeposited funds into your bank account. That is the recommended way of going about things. However, sometimes people don't do it that way and they're tempted to match a deposit to multiple outstanding invoices from the deposit window. So what has happened here in this particular screenshot is they've got a deposit made 3, they have clicked expand, toggled on the match button, which has opened up all of the transactions that QuickBooks can find that might be related to this particular transaction between this particular date range. So you can see a date range filtered by and no search. We've got home currency. And in this particular case, the correct thing to do would be to back up a step, go back out and receive these individual payments. However, what the ProAdvisor or the business owner in this case has said, well, if we match directly to the invoice, we're just going to skip our undeposited funds step. and a few challenges are created. You end up with multiple deposits showing in the register, which means that QBO cannot match it in your bank feed, and it's going to complicate reconciling your account at the end of the month and potentially unreconciling the account if you need to go back if the business owner has done this and now you're trying to update and bring the books into a complete and audit ready process. So we don't recommend this. It's going to create a few more complications than are necessary, but we're going to walk through and show you what happens. So in this case, the business owner, the ProAdvisors come in and manually match these open invoices. They have skipped the undeposited funds step. The best practice is to go ahead and match against a actual deposit, or you can receive the sales receipts and match multiples if you have gone through and use the proper workflow. What do I mean by proper workflow? Well, in this particular case, what we've done is we've matched these deposit, this $1489.55, to these 3 sales receipts. These 3 sales receipts have been recorded, received payment to the undeposited funds account. So although in this case we are still connecting to multiple transactions from our deposit window, because each of these
sales receipts have been recorded to the undeposited funds. Okay. She meowed at me.
Receipts has gone to our undeposited funds. The result is a single deposit showing up in the register, which means that QBO can match it to the bank feed, and this simplifies the reconciling and unreconciling of the account. So this is the best practice. If you are going to use your sales receipt or receive payment, be sure to use undeposited funds. That gives you the option of matching multiple payments from your bank feed, because QuickBooks is going to be able to connect it all in one step, give you one deposit in the register, match it in the bank feed, and simplify your reconciliation.
Okay.
Here's the result of those 2 transactions. When we connected to the open invoices, our bank register now shows 3 different line items, which means it's not going to match our bank feed and it's going to make our month-end bank rec complicated. But in the case of matching to the sales receipts, you can see by virtue of us using our undeposited funds, although we split the deposit and connected it to 3 individual line items, QuickBooks has bundled it together because of the glue of our undeposited funds account, right? This has become helpful, okay? What happens next? Well, when we're looking at our register, we want to see our reconciliation column. We see that although each one of these transactions has been matched in the bank feed, the first one is the only one that has been bundled correctly for a direct match. If we opened up our bank feed, we would see a green match to the $1489. It's going to be more complicated for our invoice line item. So that is the efficiency of our undeposited funds feature and allowing us the ability to match multiple transactions if we want to process through the bank feed because we've missed our bank feed step. Okay. Sometimes you might need to resolve a discrepancy. What discrepancy? Well, in this particular example, QuickBooks is not suggesting a match because possibly the transaction falls outside of the default search range. Or sometimes the discrepancy is in between the amount of the bank feed and the entry recorded in QBO. This can be as innocent as a rounding error. So we're looking at the Staples receipt. And in this case, Staples receipt has been posted in QBO as $112.99, but in the bank feed, it has been rounded to $113. So maybe it was paid by cash and it's been rounded to 113. That's why the bank feed comes through this way. Either way, we're talking about a penny. And in this case, what we might want to do is just resolve that penny difference and move on with our lives. How do we do it? Well, we come into our bank feed. We click that Staples transaction. We click the Find Other Matches button because we're confident it's in our GL and now it has found the transaction. We're going to click to expand it. We can either show or remove it, but instead, let's just go ahead and resolve the penny. So we're going to toggle on Resolve, which is going to pop up this window to add a resolving transaction. We can make our payee as Staples, put in our category, put in our penny, use our consistent GST code because we don't want to mess up our sales tax module, and then go ahead and add this new transaction.
That's fine.
Now, that is how we can resolve a transaction. So when QBO is not finding a match, there are a number of different reasons. Okay, we talked about being outside of the date range. Sometimes it's a duplicate. So maybe this transaction's come in twice. Maybe we want to exclude the transaction. Sometimes the transaction has already been reconciled. So in the case where maybe we went ahead and reconciled a transaction or reconciled the bank account before processing the bank feed, we could have some orphan transactions in our bank feed. They will never be matched by QBO because once we reconcile, that shuts off that live bank feed type connection from the internal method. Sometimes the tax amount differs between the bank feed, and that is the solution that we have just demonstrated for you here. Okay. What else? Well, when we process from this resolving the discrepancy, here's how it's going to show up in your bank feed. So now we're in our bank feed. We can see there's our $113, and it's been matched to multiple transactions. If we click to expand, we can see that it's been matched to the $112.99 that was coded, as well as the 1 cent reconciling entry that we have made. When we expand that or transact that out to our month-end reconciliation, we will see those 2 line items showing here. So QuickBooks is showing them as reconciled, but it does show as 2 separate transactions because we have added that transaction. The same way prior, we talked about those bank deposits. We have our $9,000 deposit. It is matched and pre-reconciled by QBO, but if we were looking at our bank statement and saw the $9,000 deposit, there's not a visual link to the fact that these 3 transactions total that $9,000, right? We see the type is received payment versus deposit. Okay, so these highlighted amounts you can see have been matched by QBO, and you can see how QBO is going to help you work on your reconciliation before you even get there by virtue of handling your bank fee transactions correctly. Okay? So we've got a demo here. I'm going to run through this rather quickly because we've covered most of it through.
Oh man.
through the screenshots, but we're going to look at some for review, talk about that, how we can search and filter, as well as some grid columns. So I'm going to jump into product here, and let's head over to our bank transactions. So we see that we are in our bank transactions transaction center. In our bank transactions, we've got one account connected. We have our for review. So we've got 13 transactions that have come in from our bank feed that need to be handled. Once we process them, they're going to move into our categorized section. If we don't want them to be here because they're duplicated, we can move them into our excluded section. Let's go back to the for review. Here's our intact insurance. We know that this is correct. We can go ahead and match it. We've talked about that extensively. Our favorite customer, we want to explore.
Intact insurance. So mine doesn't even have the matching option. Like if I go to my bank transactions, it won't be there. Bank transactions. This one should be easy, right? That's not categorized. Payee. We do have one for Supply Depot, I guess the bank. The account, bank charges, no tax. Yes. Is there a history? I guess that's the one I just did. Guess I could create a rule. Bank fees. Money out in checking. Oh shit, these are not bank fees. Email. Software. Fees. No, should go into subscriptions. And it's gone. Categorized. Rule. Okay.
Explore that. Maybe we want to look at that sales receipt before we handle it. We can see it went to undeposited funds. We know if it's been to undeposited funds, it is safe for us to match. If we thought maybe it wasn't, we could go ahead and find other matches. You can see that the suggested matches is turned on. If we turn it off, we can see that there's 2 transactions, and really this is the only match. Okay. We could go ahead and match that particular transaction. Okay. If there's 2 matches found, well, we've got a bill here and a bill there, so we're going to need to decide if this is a bill payment for Sky Training or Bill Quark. So we'll need to go and make an investigation to find out which invoice was actually paid. There's our email transfer fee. And as you see, as we move these forward, they do move into our categorized section. Now, what if we categorize this deposit by mistake? We weren't ready yet. We can always undo it, and that's going to push it back into our for review section. Maybe we think that this transaction should be excluded. We could exclude it. That will move it into our excluded section. But of course, that's a mistake because we definitely need to record that to our GL. So we can undo that, put it back to our review, and go ahead and add it.
Okay. These, okay. Supply Depot. That's an expense. like cost of goods sold. Or like I don't have like general expenses, right? Equipment, insurance, interest, supply depot. Maybe office expenses? Does it have any other info? Like, can we try matching it? No, because there's nothing here. Hold on. What do we have here? Where is Supply Depot? This is the one that I made. Let's get rid of that. Yeah. Let's find bank. These are our expenses. Utilities. These are all split. Where's my Supply Depot expense? I don't see it. It wasn't recorded. These are all our customers, so it's not in our sales. It would be in our cost of goods sold. Maybe it's in inventory. Purchase orders. No purchase orders. Go back. Aha. So for Christina, we purchased $262.50 cost of sales. Promotional items. To go further. Can I do like all dates? No. How far back does this go? Alright, just 2025. So we got some inventory. We got this other one for Christina, but we split it between two items. Okay. So it's not anywhere. I can't find this expense anywhere. Do I have to like invent one? Bank. Where are we splitting this transaction? What is this? Interest and a loan every month. $10 subscription. Well, let me see the split. Is it categorized? Yeah, it is. Cost of sales, bill payment, inventory, janitorial expense. Should be like 100. Buy depot. If it's 275, then it should be like 180 something. No, not as a payment. Supplier customer project. I mean, it came from Supply Depot. I don't know what it is for. I think it is a cost of goods sold. It could be stationery and printing, though. Okay, let's just add it. And then I need to find the expenses. Maybe if I go to suppliers and then I sort view all supplies depot. So we don't have a transaction. Okay, open bills. We paid the bank. We paid all these guys. So in total, we should see 200. Oh, 275. Is this cost of sales bill? Is this the one I made? Is this one I invented? Yeah, it is. What the hell? Okay, that's... Oh my god. This one I invented. We don't have an expense recorded for it, so I guess I just recorded an expense for it. Yeah, it doesn't exist. Okay.
There, okay? Maybe we just want to search for something. Maybe we're looking for all of the bank or email transfer fees. We could put in that amount and search. And we can see, oh, look, there's two, January 8 and January 18. We could batch transact these because we have searched for them, okay? So the search function can be quite helpful. You can search by just money in, so that's going to shorten your list, make it easy for you to process those transactions, maybe just the money out. Sometimes you want to look at the suggestions. Oh, are these good suggestions? Well, I want to process all of those before I go work on the ones that QuickBooks doesn't know what to do with. Maybe I'm just looking for rules. Oh, we don't have any rules. Maybe we should set some up. So all of these defaults are going to help you. It can also be helpful to go by a date format because, as you know, the date range is limited. And if you are looking at old transactions, say from last year, and you change your date range, then QuickBooks is going to look and find them and show matches because you have told it what date range to look at. If you're only looking at the current date range, it might make it difficult for QuickBooks to determine the past, and you might need to go back in and find the match manually. That can be time consuming. So updating your date range can be very, very helpful. Now, as with any grid, you've got some menu options here. So you could print this list. If you wanted to review it for whatever reason, maybe the transactions left here, you need to send back to the business owner and say, we need these receipts or we need more information. You can also export this list to Excel, which is another way that you might want to create a list in order to investigate and resolve the outstanding transactions. And then you'll see this micro gear all over the place in QBO, and that allows you to change the columns that you might want to see. I mentioned earlier, showing your bank details is always going to be recommended because you're going to see better and more information by having on the bank detail. It'll show you multi-currency conversion rates. It'll show you a check number. It'll give you additional details that you may find helpful when processing your bank feed. Some people don't want to see the suggested rules. They find that a little bit disruptive in their work. You can toggle that on or off. Editable date field. This can be helpful if your client is manually issuing checks. And so the check number comes through here, but that check number might be for December of 2023. And so you'll want it to be recorded to your GL for December and then show as cleared the bank in January. So that editable date field can be useful. And so it is available to you here. Page size, depending on your transaction volumes. Maybe you want to see 300 lines on a page. Maybe you've got a lower volume customer. You want to see 75. Now, I also want to show you turn on grouping. Grouping is interesting. So we currently have the grid here sorted by date. If we turn on the grouping, it's going to group it by month. So look, there's all of our January dates. We could also group by bank detail. So now all the deposits are together, all the email transfers are together, all the service charges are together. So grouping depends on the column that you have selected. So no payee, there's 11 transactions. Staples has 1. So that grouping function can be very helpful, especially when you've got large volumes of transactions to process. So you can turn it on or off as is going to suit your needs. Okay? And that takes care of our processing of bank feed transactions.
Cool. The sample company is not in a good state. It needs fixing. I think it would be a really good like practice company to, so you can figure out everything that's wrong with the sample company and then like get it up to date. I think that's a pretty good sign. This should not be that long. I just did it.
Setting up rules in your transaction center can be a great way to streamline your workflow and improve accuracy. So rules can help you automate the categorization of the transactions in the bank feed, and this can include transaction type, category, payee, class, location. Do know that the rules will only apply to the transactions in the for review tab. So if you recall, you've got for review, categorized, and excluded, and rules will only apply to the for review tab transactions. Do know that it can also be programmed to automatically add those transactions for you, but big red flag, please be sure to test that automatic add or test that rule before you activate the auto add. You might unexpectedly automate and accept everything into, say, uncategorized expenses, and instead of helping you, you've actually created more work. So you'll want to test out every rule that you create to ensure that it is going to function in the way that you intend. Do know that prioritizing can be really important. Sometimes when similar words are used in multiple rules, right, you might have the term loan come up many times. Maybe you've got a bank loan, maybe you've got a line of credit loan. And so you'll want to be very specific about how those rules are applied or prioritized or ordered in order to be sure that the right one is going to be assigned to the correct transaction. Right? So prioritizing is important. Do know that you can also copy rules, edit them, and export them. And that means you can export rules from one QBO file and import them into another. And that can be really handy if you've got rules that handle, say, your email transfer fee for $1.50, or you've got office supplies rules that are very standardized and can be applied to multiple clients that you're working with. So that's a real time saver. Also know that you can split transactions into multiple categories. So I mentioned loan earlier. Maybe you need to split the loan out between the principal and the interest. Maybe it's a static amount every month, and that makes it straightforward and easy. That can be really helpful. Sometimes you might want to split it out between multiple categories because of the function of it. Maybe it's 50% of overhead and it's 50% of resale. Lots of different ways that you can split out a transaction, and QuickBooks is going to help you by helping you set up that rule. Okay. One rule per file. I just want to highlight that because I cannot emphasize it enough, but you can see how rules can be very helpful in helping you process the bank feeds. Let's have a look at what it might look like in your transaction center. So here we are in your transaction center. We're already familiar with these grids or these lists that we have set. So we're going to go to our rules page, and we've got a number of rules set up already. We've got 7 that we could batch actions. So maybe we need to delete a bunch because we've set them up by mistake, or maybe we've double imported and we need to delete some. We may want to disable them, which means maybe there's a rent-free period. So you just want to pause the rule for a little while you determine what the new rent amount is going to be. And then you could always enable it again. So sometimes you'll turn something off temporarily and then turn it back on, and then turn off or on the auto add. Okay. Priority, now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is all set up here. If you wanted to reorder, maybe you want the email transfer first, you would click and hold your number pad to drag it up to the location that you want it to be, or drag it down to the location that you want it to be. So that's how you can reorder them. And that can be very helpful to ensure that the right rule is going to be associated with the correct transaction. You can see that the conditions are here. So in the case of a service charge, the description must contain service CH because that is what the bank fee typically reads. And the amount must either equal or be less than $19. And so when that happens, the QuickBooks has been told to automatically add that particular transaction. You can see the status of these rules is all active, and then we always have our action column where we can go ahead and make a change. So we can click our edit button and either change the amount. Maybe the service charges have gone up to $20 a month, and we want to make that change. Maybe the rent has changed and increased or decreased. We could go ahead and make that change. If you need to make a new rule, you just go ahead and click the green button and click the new rule. That will bring up a pop-up window, and you can walk through all of the fields because it's a nice little wizard that'll help you create a rule even without any prior practice of your own. You also know that you've got your downward menu extended, your chevron, where you can export the rules or import the rules. And I'm going to talk about that just in a little bit more detail when we jump into the product demonstration right here. Okay. So here we are in our sample data. We're going to head on over to our transaction center. You can see I could go to my bank transactions, but I can go directly to my rules page right from my navigation menu. So right now I want to go to my rules. I can see that I don't have any
rules. Description contains email service. And we update the condition. Amount equals $10. Then we go to reconcile, and then we go to here, and then we go to categorized, and then the rule is still good. Okay.
rules applied. So what I'd like to do is create a brand new rule. 2 ways I can do it. I can go ahead and create a new rule right here. And I'm going to call it email transfer fee, money out to my checking account. Now, do be aware that you can pick, well, if I've got more than one account here, I could set it up for all the checking accounts. Typically, try to keep your bank accounts together and your credit card accounts together. And oftentimes, my best practice is to only ever assign a rule to one particular account. I've got a number of accounts that earn interest, but I like to still have a separate rule just in case anything applies. I'm not having a global problem over all of my bank accounts. I can isolate it and be specific to one particular account. So it's got to be any or all. So either everything of all of the filters need to be, or the criteria need to be in place, or just any of them. In this case, on an email transfer, I'm going to say all. I'm going to say that the bank text needs to say email transfer. I could also add another condition because in the case of email transfer, just as a safety, I'm going to put amount is less than $5, right? Because if it's more than $5, I don't want to get into a problem where maybe it's picking up something that should not be an email transfer. Maybe it's going to pick up an email transfer payment to somebody where I'm sending $500 to a supplier. I want to make sure that I limit this so that the rule only applies to what I want it to apply to. Now, here's your fun button, test the rule. Is this going to do anything? So this rule will currently apply to 2 unreviewed transactions. Well, that's helpful. So it sounds like I might have this set up correctly. Next, we want to go down to this bottom section and tell it what to do. So transaction type absolutely is an expense in this particular case. What is the category? Well, I must have bank charges and fees. Who have I paid? I could put the bank information in here, but in this case, I'm just going to leave it blank. You can see that tax is optional, but I'm going to set it up as exempt, and I'm not going to use any tags. So I could automatically confirm. However, I did suggest that we not turn this on until we are sure that it's going to apply the way we want it to apply. Right? If we were adding a split, we could do that, and I will show that right now that you can split it by percent or amount. You could put in $1 goes to bank charges, and the remainder goes to interest expense or office supplies or whatever might make sense for the transaction that you are creating. In this particular case, I'm going to toss out the split by clicking the garbage can because I don't actually want to split this rule. If I wanted to assign more, I could go ahead and I could put in additional information, replacing the bank memo with some text, or I could keep the memo. Right? In this case, I'm going to clear it and I'm going to click save. Right? I've reviewed all my information. This is what I want it to be. I know it's going to apply to 2 rules. I've turned off the automatic add. And now I've got 1 rule. Let's go over to our bank transactions and see that, oh, look at that, there's a rule. Now here's a fun fact. You can go ahead and filter this list by rules. So those are our 2 transactions. Now, we don't actually want this to go to accounts payable, so there's clearly something in error with our rule. Let's go back to it and edit our rule. So as we were messing around, we see that this went to bank charge or accounts payable instead of bank charges. So let's test the rule again. It's going to go to our 2 unreviewed and click save. We head back to our bank transactions, filter it by rule, and now we can see that this is correct. So you see the value of testing the rule. We might think that we've entered the rule criteria correctly, but maybe we didn't. Now, because we have filtered it by rule, we can say, you know what, I'm going to accept those. Those are done. That was easy. I'm going to remove the filter and have a look at the rest of my transactions. We have bank charges here. We can also create a rule for bank charges. So if we open this up, we can see that it's all set up the way we want it to. We have a create rule button right here. And in this case, QuickBooks has picked up the prior categorization information. We could call this monthly service charge, out of all bank, description. Let's go with bank text, contain service charge, add a condition. The amount, in this case, we want it to always be $19. Okay? We can test that rule. It's going to apply to 1, double check all of our information here. And in this case, I'm going to turn on auto add. So right now, we can see that service charge January 31st is showing in our bank feed. As soon as I click save, it's no longer here. It has been processed and moved to our categorized section. And when you're in your categorized, you see that the rule applied to our bank charges and it was auto added for our monthly service charge. So that's how we can edit our rules. Okay? If we wanted to export our rules now, we'll go back to our rules section and click our downward chevron and we can export the rules. Now do know that when we export the rules, we can only export all of the rules. We can't say, oh, we only want to export rule number 1 or rule number 5. When you export, all of the rules are exported. So we've exported them. Here's the instructions. Then switch to company you want these rules for. From the banking page, go to your rules list and import the rules. Okay? So I'm going to close that there. I'm going to head over to another data file. I'm going to go to our transaction center and our rules.
Oh my god, I need
and
to go for
I'm
a
going to
walk.
import the rules.
Damn, bro.
Here I'm going to select the file to download. I'm going to drag and drop it right there. And I'm going to click next. There's my 2 rules. So here's my option. Although I had to export all of the rules from the first account, I don't have to import them all into the second account. So this is where I get to choose if I want all of them, some of them, or if I change my mind and I don't want to import any of them. Okay? If I need to make any changes, that's going to happen after I click next. So bank charges matches with my same GL over here, so I don't need to do anything. Right? If it came in incorrect, I could always go back and change it. Sometimes your account names are slightly different between QBO files. I can update the tax code. Then I'm going to click next, and those 2 rules have been successfully imported. There they are, and they've been set up as rule number 1 and rule number 2. Now here, there could be a duplicate, right? I've got email transfer for $1.50 and I got email.
Oh my god. Oh my god. This is not good. Okay, I'm gonna finish this video and then I'm gonna
transfer
go
here. So first name, let's drag and drop.
to get to the
All accounts,
interview
all
soon.
accounts. Let's just hit our drop down. We see copy, disable, or delete. So let's have a look at the existing one, which is there's the one that we created, is less than $1.50. And then if we look at the second one, whoops, edit, we can see that it must equal $1.50. So we can decide which rule that we want to keep and then go ahead and delete the other rule. So in this case, I'll delete that second rule. It won't apply to future transactions. And now it's gone. Okay? That can be really helpful. Now we're over here because what happens if we have something that has multiple opportunities associated with it? So let's create a new rule and we're going to call it meals. And what we want is any of the following. So any description that contains Tim Hortons, any description that contains Starbucks, any description that contains coffee time, right? And then that's going to go to the category of meals and entertainment. And then we go ahead. We would probably want to have a special tax code here, which we happen to have at 50%. And away we go. Can we test the rule? Does it apply to anything? It doesn't currently apply to anything. Do know that you can have up to 5 conditions. So maybe the amount is less than $20, right? Maybe the description also contains or doesn't contain Moxies, right? Or doesn't contain something else. So you can have up to 5 different criteria in order to help your rule be set up. In this case, we'll leave the auto add off. We've got that rule in place, and now it's all set up and ready to go. And again, that will factor into when you've got rules that you want to apply over multiple QBO files. You might set up some static ones that are going to help you. Let's go back to our batch transactions. Now in this file, you can see that there's a number of rules set up. Now, isn't that interesting that meals and entertainment has connected to this particular payee, right? Let's find out why. Let's go and have a look at our rule. And what does our rule for meals say? Our rule for meals says any of the following less than $20 contains Tim, Starbucks, or coffee time. So it is likely that some of this contains is duplicated in our listing here. So you can see how dangerous it would have been to assign this particular rule to be automatic, right? So let's remove some of these criteria and save. And now we're back in business, right? Now that rule is not applied incorrectly to these 3 transactions. So you can see how the rule might seem straightforward. It can get more complicated as you start adding more rules. That's why testing the rule is always going to be important, considering what is included. Any, all, doesn't, is exactly. Those things are going to matter. Okay? So that's how you're going to set up your rules. And let's head over to the next step, which is just a few ProAdvisor tips regarding your bank transactions. So we want to be sure that we delete the opening balance to equity transaction when you connect an existing account. We want to use rules to create efficiency. Do not use rules to create inefficiency. Be very intentional, test your rules extensively, and be sure that they're going to operate the way you want. When you're comfortable doing so, it's a fantastic feature that you can use. And then remember the export-import can be super powerful, so you don't have to continue to set up rules in between data files. You can do it all at once. A reminder that although Smart Learning is part of QBO, it is still up to you to validate the transaction before clicking Add, Match, or Transfer. And then please be sure that you always process all bank feed transactions before reconciling the account, because if you don't, you may orphan some transactions in your bank feed, and that just creates some unnecessary confusion that you can absolutely avoid. So those are your bank transactions in your QBO file.
I think that's it. Yay. Okay. 2/3 done. Let's go. Reporting and period end activities. Great. To take the Okay, cool. I am gonna practice with the like sample company account. I'm gonna just like try to sort it out completely so that I know that at least I like think I know everything, and then when I take the exam I should be able to do everything in theory, but we'll see. All right. That's all for now. I gotta go get myself ready and not look like a complete mess. And maybe do some